to The Truth in This Art. Thank you for tuning in to these conversations at the intersection of arts, culture, and community. I am your host, Rob Lee. Today, I've got a great one. I am thrilled to have a Queens, New York born and Washington, D.C. based self-taught multidisciplinary artist and founder of Black Techno Matters. What's that? You'll learn more during this episode, so listen in. My guest makes music under the moniker OutputMessage. Please welcome Bernard Farley. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you for making the time. And I mean, I'm seeing pieces of it. So shout out to the shirt, by the way. I like the color scheme. It's crisp. It's crisp.
Thank you.
Yeah, as we get started in this pod, and again, it's a pleasure to have you on here. I feel like I was like searching around. I was like, do I reach out? I don't know what to say. And then it's like you see that person you're interested in. You're like, I don't know if they're going to be interested. And then you just shoot your shot. That's what I did with having you on this pod. So thank you for coming on. And introductions, the online thing is really cool, but I like to give folks the space and the opportunity in these introductions to share who they are in their most authentic and in their words. And I learned a while back, I did an interview and someone just pointed out, it's like, yo, you forgot the most important part of me. I'm a human. I'm in this and that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like that humanism is important and a lot of time is stripped from us. So I was like, I'll do my intro, but I always like to give the person their space to introduce themselves. So if you will, please.
Oh my God, I hate answering this question sometimes, honestly.
All right.
Well, because it's a lot of times when people ask that question, they want like I am this, and that's not how I see myself. But I'm gonna try my best. So I mean, I guess at the heart, I'm an artist. If you get to know me, if you spend time with me, you realize I'm just constantly doing creative things, little and small, all over the place. Dancing, I love dancing all the time. Music, I've always loved music, making music a lot. But there's a term I came up with, it hasn't caught on, but experience artist, that's how I think of myself is, I like to craft experiences, whatever that means. A lot of times I craft my own experiences, and I think people should do that. Like how do you want to live the next hour? Like luxuriate in it, live your fantasy if you can. But also I have a lot of joy in like creating experiences for other people and like giving that joy to others as well. So it's probably an easy way to do it.
No, that's and here's the thing. Based off your energy thus far, we were talking a little bit beforehand. I mean, this is going to be a great experience. So thank you, experience artists. I appreciate you on that.
No problem.
So, and I saw a few because I've been following you on the IG, and I was like, all right,
okay.
So I was like, I see the moves. I was like, a little intimidated. It's fine. So speaking of music, let's talk a bit about that. What was the original draw for music for you? Like one of those like really early experiences with music. What were you listening to growing up? And I have like a second part to that question, but I want to at least give you the space there to hit that first part.
It's been a journey. I mean, music is one of those things in my life where I don't know when it started in my life. Like it's been in there. It's been there the whole time. My dad is a jazz musician. My mom loves dancing, but she also has a voice as well. But I think the moment I always come back to, I was living in New York, so I was born in New York City, in Queens. And my parents were separated. My mom was dating some guys. She liked to date DJs, and she would come home with these mixtapes. And then she would come home with all these. We had records, we had CDs, and she was going out. She would go out, and but yeah. So there was actually all this. There was like rare vinyls, like a rare Crystal Waters Gypsy Woman with like the long edit that I don't even know where it is anymore. And I would just be at home like dancing by myself, like putting on a stereo, playing the tapes. So I was just like absorbing all this music, and I was huge fan of Michael Jackson. Like I just like everything, all the dance moves, the singing. I memorized everything, and so it was like this interesting mixture of like pop Michael Jackson. There was the DJ tapes from like you're getting like New Jack Swing, some house. But my mom was also, she loved disco. That's what, when she was younger, before she had me, she was in the discos. So we had all these disco records. So that was all, I mean, that was just inside of me. So before I even knew I could make music, that's how I expressed myself to music was through dancing, just through movement. And then I think like around sixth grade, my grandmother bought me a keyboard, and I just started, and there was a record button, and that was like the end of it. Like, and once I could record what I was doing, I've been recording music ever since. So
The visual you had there was almost like that meme when someone's typing a strongly worded letter. It's just like Muppet hands, just And I'll say, like, I've had this relationship with music as I have a little bit of I'm a snob. I'm just gonna own it, and a bunch of a lot of things, right? But when it comes to music, it was one of those things that I had a pretty wide taste in music that I like. Like right now, listen to like neoclassical shred metal, which is
nice.
wild right now. And but also it's kind of my gym playlist, but also it's like I'm listening to like romantic dark wave as well. So and those aren't considered black genres. So and I'm putting a pin in that, by the way. But I'll say, going back to it, I went to Morgan and we had like WEAA, a lot of jazz music on there. And I remember being younger and like, man, what's all this jazz? I ain't really with all that. And now, as I approach 40, I'm like, all right, yeah, man, I got like only jazz records in my house, which speaks to the musicianship and the personalities, the characters, the artistry, all of that stuff that's baked in there. And so, and a lot of them had long careers too. So, and with it, it brings me to the second part of this question. We see that streaming as a way to kind of maybe change and shift how things are done. And I feel like musicians start feeling more like podcasters a little bit, just really looking at these numbers, not like the record sales, but these kind of artificial numbers. So in that climate and sort of the, getting the feeling, the payoff from someone enjoying your stuff, talk a bit about what continues to draw you to music. Is it, purely out of the love of making it, of stretching yourself, of, man, I want to try this?
Ooh. Well, I have to love it. Like, I don't make, if I don't get some sort of enjoyment out of what I'm doing, I'm on to the next. Like, I can't even focus on it. So that helps me like filter out some stuff. But, I think what's really driving me right now, I've really taken, so DeForest Brown Jr. has a book called, sorry, this is second. DeForest Brown Jr. has, a book called Assembling a Black Counterculture, which really I have like multiple copies just in case someone comes over and I'm like, take one, please. Like you, I also have a signed copy. No one takes that one. But he used this term sonic liberation technology as in reference to techno.
Yeah.
And so I've really taken that to heart, where what I'm doing is I feel like it needs to have some form of liberation in it. And then currently for me, that's just, I've gone wild with live improvisation. So really the last like 3-4 years, almost all of my tracks is just a live recording of me like going at it. And it's like a craft. And so that just mastering that is fun in itself to me, like building that confidence to be like, I'm going to do a 2-hour live set. Let's go. And that connects to the jazz. It's funny because my dad, he's really into smooth jazz, which I was not a big fan of growing up. I started getting into like experimental electronic music in middle school, and he hated that. Both my parents hated that. What I was listening to, like Aphex Twin,
Oh yeah,
that kind of stuff. But now with what I'm doing, I think it really is a form of jazz. Funnily enough, like I think I ended up being a jazz musician after all, but it's with drum machines. You know, it's with synthesizers, and uh, and so it's in a way, it's, you know, now that I've honed that, it's when I, you know, as soon as I step in front of the drum machine, as soon as I start twiddling the knobs, it's a place where I'm truly just like expressing myself, and I'm just slowly removing all these barriers where I'm like, oh, should I do that, or does that sound right? And I don't, you know, more and more, I'm just not even thinking about that anymore. So it's like it's a place of freedom, liberation for me, and then the music I'm crafting. Um, I use future drum circle is kind of like the phrase in my head. I'm in a band, we're in a band called Future Drum Circle. There's 6 of us. So we've done like a few live sets. We're all jamming on our drum machines. But it's, you know, it's music that's completely in the present. Like everyone is there vibing with each other. If we have an audience, they're part of the performance, right? Because they're reacting to what we're doing. We're vibing off of them, you know, what and I think that's another form of liberation, like music that not just enables me to feel liberated, but puts people in a place where they're, and you know, hearing new sounds, new rhythms, but it's being played in a way that it's inviting them to be a part of it, to explore it, to adventure with it.
The experience.
The experience, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that's you're really describing like how I feel when I'm discovering something new, like sonically, which I make fun of. There's some music related bits that come up in conversation with my partner regularly. That's like sonically, because I remember we were listening to a guy that was being very pinky extended, very nose up. I was like, shut up! Don't lead off a sentence with sonically. You never do that. But also, you know, from that perspective, you were describing like that feeling when I'm getting something new. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this right now. It clicks, and there's a feeling. I know. I was talking with a chef earlier today about sort of those senses, like those smells that you get, and you're like, man, I really want to make that. I smell it, and when I hear something, and maybe it's the same, but when I hear something, it takes me back to the moment that I first heard it. It sets a mood for me. It sets what that experience will be. So I got this second, well, this other question that is kind of the loaded question.
Okay.
And I think you know what the loaded question is. So what is Black music?
I love that question. Because I like to bring up this stat that Michael Jackson's Thriller was in the Black music section. Like it was there was still, when that album came out, there's a whole, if you go to the music store, it was Black music and then everything else. And that's changed now. But so I think there's already this kind of like perspective from outside, I think, the Black experience of what is Black music. And I'm not going to talk about that. I think from the eternal perspective is that it's not about that at all. That Black music is rooted, and honestly, what keeps Black people here is this relentless, limitless creativity. I feel like Black people have this magic ability to create not something, but to create magic out of nothing. Because that's, you know, being brought here as slaves, not just being brought here as slaves, like cutting us down, cutting our families down, abusing us, beating us hundreds of years. And I mean, Beyonce, like there's still somehow like Beyonce exists. And to me, that's just a long lineage of creativity, of perseverance, of persistence. And so I think number one, that's what you hear in Black music. But Black music is also about communication, about the groove. I think it's about being lock and step because, you know, being scattered, being distanced from our own ancestry. Yeah. I find the groove is a place where we can all lock in. And I think that's another important thing about Black music. And then we're not only creating so many forms of Black music, but we also ingest other forms of music and put our own spin on it. And again, the creativity. So, going back to the Forrest Brown Jr. sonic liberation technology, and you think of techno,
Yeah.
and it's, there's now this whole industry built around it. It's capitalized. It's consumer. It's consumerist. It's transactional. You can just pay a certain amount of money and get techno.
Yeah.
Like you can buy techno. You can buy a techno experience. But the originators that were making that, not because they wanted to make some money. They made that because that was the creativity. That was how they expressed themselves. That was how they lifted themselves out of where they were.
Yeah.
And that's how they found alternate timelines. And so where is it going? So techno, it's not about, to me, it's not about, being in a dark club, whatever. You go to those old tapes back in Detroit, people were like Soul Train dancing to techno because that's what it was about.
Yeah.
So that's kind of part of what Black Techno Matters is it's like bringing the focus back to the original about Black artists expressing themselves, about Black artists. What does the music mean to them? Where does it take them? Yeah.
So it's almost like a natural segue. It's almost as if you had the questions. So tell us about, and you were touching on the mission there. So tell us more about sort of the founding and sort of that story of how it came to be. I would imagine that it was kind of filling a lack. It was feeling like, I don't know if this is around. Let me put my hat in the ring. Let me get together my folks or what have you, or let me at least be the person that says, this is where I'm at. I'm putting my stake in the ground. Talk a bit about the founding of Black Techno Matters and anything else related to sort of the mission that you want to really like key in on.
Yeah. So, I mean, it started actually really simple. I just, I, I just got, honestly, I got tired of being the only Black artist on the lineup. Like I just got tired of it. It really was that simple. And then I was, I was thinking, well, wait, where are the Black art? Like, where are the Black techno artists? And I Googled, and me thinking we have this powerful search engine. We could find all sorts of random stuff. And I could not find just a simple list, like 10, 20 names just in a row of Black artists, Black techno artists. And I searched for, I didn't find any immediate results. And then I was like, well, I was at my old day job. I had a little notepad next to me and I was like, who cares what my work is right now? I'm going to like sit here and like, I'm not going to stop until I fill this notepad. And it was surprisingly difficult. And I cheated a little bit because some of the artists had like pseudonyms or like side groups where it wasn't totally a different artist, but I filled that notepad. And just like the phrase just came to me, like Black Techno Matters. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a party called Black Techno Matters? So that's really what it was. I created that logo. That was the flyer, basically. That was like the first party flyer. It was just that logo. And it was simple. It was just like we had 3 Black DJs on the lineup. It was that simple. And people showed up for it. And not only did people show up for it, people were, thanking me for creating that space. And it was so much that I knew. I was like people need this. People and I don't think I was even prepared for how like profound just something as simple as having a party with all Black lineups and consistently having parties with all Black lineups would change me, would change people that got involved with it. Because when you're a Black artist and you're always that one Black artist on the lineup, you're not talking to people who share these common experiences with you. They're not, you're always trying to in some way prove, whether or not you want to or intend to or you're asked to, you're the outsider. You kind of have to prove yourself. You kind of have to be like, I belong here too. And you flip it and it's all Black artists. It's a different environment. It's like, And we don't when we invite artists to play our events or do mixes or whatever, we never like you need to play this or
Right.
like your techno needs to sound like this. Like play whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like express yourself and get a Black artist together physically to do that. And that's the energy. It's collaborative. It builds community. Like you like what the other person's playing, you exchange numbers.
Yeah.
You can exchange information, and then that grows. We've had many artists who meet or connect through Black Techno Matters, and they're doing all sorts of things outside of Black Techno Matters. So um, that's how it started, and it's just been growing and growing because it means a lot to people.
That's great. And I do this thing and this sort of search. What you were describing of having that notepad out, that is me when I'm looking at, all right, who am I going to interview? And now sort of this sort of evergreen content, these monthly themes, but also seeing what aligns with what I rock with, what I like, and I'm the curator, I guess. And well, I know. And you know, with it, like at one point I was doing this podcast years ago called Unofficially Black. And it was just like, oh, there's no Black people that do that. So when you were describing, I was having flashbacks. And, and really it came out of a conversation I had with one of my buddies about, shout out to Greg, one of my buddies about, going to wrestling shows and having like our peers around. Like, that's weird. Black people don't do that. I was like, what are you saying to me? You're bugging out. So hearing sort of that search and not being able at that time to find a list of Black, and then we have roots in the genre in the scene, right? In techno, right?
Techno, I mean, it's created by Black people. It was created by Black. That was the part that blew my mind. I mean, and it's still like I still talk to people. I mean, it never stops. Where someone asks, "Well, what do you do? And I'm like, "Well, I do this thing, Black Techno Matters," and we tell people that techno is Black music, and they're like, "What?" They're like mind blown. And some people know. Like if you grew up in Detroit, you probably know. But like there's just so many people, especially Black people, who they just have no idea. So
Yeah, and I want to touch back on one thing, comment on one thing earlier, and this is what I was trying to get at, but I kind of overthought what my point was. Um, you mentioned like Michael Jackson earlier, right? And diving back in and being able to revisit stuff, because you would hear sort of at least for me, it would be the rock centric stuff, the MTV really ready stuff. And I remember going to that Black album, that super like Dangerous is a New Jack Swing album.
mm-hmm.
And just sitting there, I was like, yo, like I said, as a nearly 40-year-old, I was like, hell yeah. And I go there, go home, go into my partner's place. And I would talk to the dog there. I would just say, man, why are you always tripping on me? And she would say, why are you quoting Michael Jackson lyrics? I was like, look, let me live. I was like, I'm experience right now. And I don't know. It's just that, but being able to revisit stuff that I don't know how popular that album was at the time, maybe Remember the Time or something along those lines. But as far as some of the things that felt real, like this slaps. Why is this for Michael Jackson, right? Why is this like one of those underappreciated sort of it ain't Thriller or it's not Beat It or anything along those lines? And so I was just thinking about it as sort of this, we're going to give you the credit, but also we're going to lightweight bury it.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to discover, or I guess in some instances rediscover and reappreciate some of these genres, it opens it up, or these songs, and opens it up to a larger genre. And it's like, oh, let me dive into New Jack Swing a bit more. There may have been a party idea called New Jack-O-Lantern Swing, but never really went anywhere with it. So in that same vein of being able to explore and embrace what it is, like I have this idea about just I bang with Black weirdos, and it's just like these are my people. But for the longest time, you'd be told, no, you shouldn't. That's not cool. Black people don't do that. It's like I find that when I talk to someone who's in that scene, who's maybe Afropunk adjacent or in that sort of Black weirdo frame, it's like I relate to them on all of the levels. So that's just, I don't know. It's just the community thing is really pulling that out of me.
Yeah. That's part of, again, bringing Black people together. Like, all it takes is you just got to call that meeting. You just got to give people a reason, and then you realize you're not alone. And I've just been Black weirdos for a long time, probably, right? Like, first thing that comes to mind is Sun Ra. Like,
100%.
uh, I mean, legit from different dimension, right? Like, I gotta tell you. So we have this playlist that Blackness is Revolutionary. It's a Spotify playlist, and it has something like almost 1,300 songs on it, and it's
Wow.
curated. Yeah, it's curated by Black artists. It's all Black artists, all Black music, and it's kind of like the answer to earlier. Like, I couldn't find a list. So now, if anyone is like, I can't find any Black artists, I send them a link and like say, have fun. You can't even, it's like hundreds of hours of music. You can't listen to it all at once. It's like overwhelming. But you scroll through it, and there's all sorts of stuff in there. And when artists curate their selections for it, it's those tracks like, why you want to trip, like why you want to trip on me. I find we get a lot of those like deep cuts.
Uh-huh.
And then, yeah, I feel kind of spoiled because I get to, I see all of it. And there's just so much. There's just so much like, whoa, I had no idea. I had no idea this person made a track like that. I had no idea, that, oh, a Black person started that,
Uh-huh.
so it's definitely there, but it takes a little bit of work because there's a lot of voices in society that try to shut you up when you try to expand how Black people can express themselves.
I'm looking forward to that playlist. I want to hear these like 17-minute maxi cut versions of well-known songs. um and so in that you mentioned the length, you mentioned the time. So I got definitely have to key in on this one. So
Yeah.
your creative output, that might be a pun and a bit in there. I'm a bit cheeky, but I see including you had an 8-hour album, Love and War. That pushes boundaries, right? So
Mhm.
could you tell us about sort of this ambitious and this like impressive feat? Because I was talking about how many episodes I put out before we got started. I ain't do no 8-hour album. Just like hold on. And in that, talk about any boundaries, if at all, that you incorporate within your work. Because you see an 8 hour, that's a third of the day. Like some people don't even
Mm.
sleep 8 hours. So
Yeah, I don't sleep 8 hours. Uh, um, well, that album that's a pandemic album, number one. So that's like, that's me being in my basement a lot by myself. Like, um, but it was also, it is, you talk about streaming and plays and all that stuff. And I went through this whole, right before the pandemic, there's this book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. I read that book, and that just it changed the way I saw social media. And uh, and and honestly, it bothers me. It bothers me that that people, our attention spans are so short, and there's almost a science to it. Like, if you like look at how long like certain videos can be on social media, they limit it because they know no one's going to watch it.
right.
Like 14 seconds, and then I'm like, damn, like I got 14 seconds to. And so it's a big creative limitation. But me, I'm about the experience, and so it was almost like you're gonna tell me to shorten my tracks, make sure it's streamable, make sure it like. Well, I'm gonna go the opposite. Like, there's that Beyonce lyric, like they told me to go faster, I just go slower. And so, to me, it was also a sound of the times that like uh, it's chaotic. Like 2020, that's when I did a lot of the recordings for that. It was just so chaotic. And I was trying to like express that. I was just trying to really just get out some feelings about this, these, especially as a Black person, that you have to keep your joy alive. Like you have to like it can get so heavy, but there's also all this shit. Sorry, all this stuff happening, all all around, and you somehow have to make sense of it. You somehow have to like still get up and like do your thing and like with confidence, with like thriving. Like that's always my goal, is to do it that way. And so that 8 hour album is also just like I think if you listen through it, you could probably hear some of the feelings, some of the things I was going through. But it's also, you know, it's a big album. I don't even know where to. I mean, it's like I could talk about a bunch of it. Like there's this one. It's a 4 hour track on it. I had to break it up because there were actually limitations to like the file sizes for some platforms. But like it's a 4 hour live recording where I just, you know, it was 20. Think about 2020. It was COVID. It was George Floyd, and you know, 4 years later, I don't know how much better it is, but like, uh, I mean, it's war. It felt like war. It felt like the common person is fighting this uphill battle just to like live a life, and so I just felt like I had to record this. I had to like get out these feelings, and I didn't care if anyone didn't listen to it or listen to the whole thing. Although some people have, like some people told me they listen to the whole thing. But it's it's an experience. I just want people to like feel that because you can, you know, there's so many words on social media now. There's so many people say all sorts of stuff. And so I also just really try to tap into like the feel, like making people feel something, making something like visceral, something you can't necessarily express in words. And so I'm curious how that whole thing ages, but that's on there. There's also a victory track that, you know, I recorded uh, um, I think a week after we did the march, a couple weeks after we did the march here in DC in 2020. And it was the last hour of my set, and it has this, you know, so it's all in there. And it was also kind of, you know, I told you I was honing the craft of just performing live. So it's just kind of like you get to listen to my journey there of like some of the tracks are 5 minutes, some of the tracks are 4 hours. Like you just, I don't know, take it or leave it. Um, so, and also the fact that things are streaming does open up a lot of things, actually. Like if there were physical limitations to like CDs and vinyl, like you couldn't having 8 hour album pressing out to vinyl was like it'd be so expensive.
Yes.
But like but you can upload it and stream it just like that. Like you can, it's just a matter of clicking some buttons. And so like what if people utilize these new technologies and like push the boundaries of that? Like why not create an 8 hour album? Why not create a 16 hour album? Like so
I mean, I had this Guinness World Record idea. I was like, look, I want to do a 24-hour podcast, just have that thing rolling. But I was like, I'm gonna get bored. I'm gonna run out of stuff to say. I'm gonna start like, yeah, man, this is the dark portion of the pod. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, my innermost like insecurities are just floating out in the middle of this podcast. You know, and I think being able to sort of push those boundaries, like I like that. It's like, look, I'm out here, I'm tinkering. What is it? FAFO, you know?
wait, what is that?
FAFO, you know, F around, find out.
Oh,
It's a bit of that. And, you know, just seeing what it is, I actually just added it to like my playlist of what I want to check out. And so I'm looking forward to it. And
nice.
I'll say this. There's 2 points on that really. You know, I was typing, you know, I'm always typing when people are talking. I was like, I got a really good point here and I don't want to lose it. It's the jazz thing you were describing. It's just like jazz musicians. It's like, look, this is literally like, I have a bunch of Charles Mingus albums here. And it's like, look, I have 45 versions of, you know, Fables of Fathers. And it's like, that's what's there. And it's like some versions slightly different, but the length is always out there.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of length, I remember having this conversation with my dad. He's a jazz guy, and he was just like, "So help me understand the iPod." Because, you know, they would tell you back in the day, you can hold this many songs. And I was like, that means they're telling you what the length of a song is. I was like, it's probably like 3.5 minutes. I was like, so whatever, you know, if it's a jazz song and that song is 17 minutes, you're not going to have, 300 of those songs on there. And he was like, oh, I was like, it's a size limitation. But essentially, they're saying a song is this length. So it was definitely one of those things. And when you say, I'm going to do something different, that's also punk rock of you as well.
Yeah, I mean, why do you have to limit my song? Like, why do you have to define what, you know, it gets that balance that, and we all play this because, content, that's everyone talks about content, right? Like, and so it's hard not to start like putting limitations or like breaking up your expression so that it's more consumable.
Mm.
But and so I think as an artist, at least I try to be mindful of like not getting too used to that, like making sure I remember that like it doesn't have to be this way, you know?
And it's funny, and we may end up returning to that because I always like to like close out on just something that people can take away. So I have two more real questions, and
Okay.
what I didn't tell you about is I got rapid fire questions for you. If you've listened to this podcast and you check it out, you
Okay.
rapid fire questions, and
Okay.
people start sweating a little bit. I see you over there hydrating, so it's all good. So we're especially Black creators, creative thinkers, artists, the whole gamut. I think we're more than just one thing, right? For instance, I'm not just a podcaster. Some people won't even say I'm a podcaster. I'm not just a podcaster. I do other creative things, have many interests, as I know you do. So talk a bit about sort of your photography background, because I saw that as well, and perhaps how that background may serve you or inform your music. How do they kind of like, serve each other? Like having that background. Like I don't do photography. I like talking to photographers. I like talking to chefs because I'm a snob. But I get those perspectives that somehow make for really good conversations. So I want to hear that sort of those creative identities serving each other.
Yeah, I mean, I got into photography just because I almost kind of had to. Like, I needed to take some photos, and so I picked up some stuff. But I think again, going into experience, I like being aware of how things look, of how things can look if lighting, um, exposure. It's all to me. It's all more like tools and parameters that you can use to craft an experience. So, um, some of the music on Love and War, there's a song on there called "Wake the Fuck Up,"
Yeah.
and I listen to the music, and sometimes I'll just get a visual. I'll get like an image. And there's a video. I did a music video, so it's actually four of me doing one take performance to this song, and it's just in front of like a brick wall, but it's just like I just see it. I see it, and so a lot of times, like for that song, to me, it's not just the song. It's like you got to see it with the video. Like you have that's the full kind of experience of it. And so I think photography, videography can help kind of almost expand the depth of what I can deliver to, what I can create in terms of like an experience of a piece of art. Um, but it's also useful, like Black Techno Matters stuff, just in general, like being able to take photos, like um, uh, well, our artists. I've taken some of the like press photos for some of our artists, and so it's also in a way like I'm making sure it's them and it expresses them, but you can also like kind of craft the overall long-term kind of trajectory of how things look for something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think photography is maybe you can't take a photo, but I think knowing how something looks is just, especially now with social media and all that stuff, is like that visual is really important.
Yeah, I think in working primarily in this audio medium, I definitely relate to that, and trying to have, excerpts. There's going to be an excerpt of this interview, this conversation we're having, that goes out there. And I struggled for a long time with, this isn't produced in this way and so on. And it's just like, just put it out there. Be fine with imperfect work and put it out there. And people are like, man, I love the new format. I was like, it's not a new format. It exists already. It's just, I just kind of got over my own insecurity about putting it out there. but it's something about seeing people engage in the conversation. It's realer, but it's the same conversation that you would get from the sort of audio experience, and having the visual component, I've given it a little bit more juice. It's not to say that I was diminishing it. It was just I wasn't confident in it. But,
Mm-hmm.
being able to put it out there, people are like, oh, wow, you are really bald. I was like, let me live. Let me live for a second. Or, wow, wow, look at your cheekbones. I was like, again, I'll take that, but let me live. Um, so so here's the last real question that I got for you, and it kind of we put a pin in sort of the technology, the social media, and being a creative, being an artist in that sort of climate. Could you speak a bit, about any insights, any considerations, or just thoughts on what that looks like now in 2024, and perhaps in it something that is for a listener to think about, like if you're a creative person, if you're an artist and you're putting stuff out there, because I'm very curious about the artistic expression versus the your content and being content, because I struggle with that in doing this. I think these conversations are important. I don't get all of my own ass about this is an archive and blah blah blah, but it is, really
Mm-hmm.
it's capturing
Mm-hmm.
that sort of moment and through these real conversations. So speak on that for you, if you will.
I think it's an exciting time, really exciting time for artists because um, there's just so many tools we have, and a lot of them are free. Like a lot of them, and they're not. And again, you have to kind of like think outside the box because you know, just take an Instagram profile, right? Like, um, yes, like you're told you're supposed to use it this way, but you don't have to. It's still a series of pictures and videos. And you can create whatever you want for it. You can like I don't know. I want to see more like Instagram profiles. It's just like a piece of art where you just scroll through it and it's an experience. And you don't have to pay for it. You could. It's just a matter of putting in the work for it. And that's like something But the spirit, I think, is that it's not what you use. It's not uh, getting out of the idea that you have to use. If you want to record an album, that you have to go into a studio. Like this happened like years ago, but people started getting hits just making stuff on their home computers, right? And now that's like normal now, right? Uh, when I record, I have a vocal effects box, but recently I'm actually just a fan of plugging my mic straight into the mixer and just using like the few effects I have that I have on there that I can use. And then it forces me to be creative with my voice to and so I think also it's like we have all these tools, all these technological things that AI, if you want to get it, if you want to go there, and you can create things really easily and but not very not costing much money, but also not forgetting like the basics of like what can you do with a microphone, like
Right.
what like that's also part of being an artist and like marrying the two or playing with the two, playing off different levels of technology, and it's also there's so many things artists can use that it really is up to the artist, I think, now to make that choice of don't think about like what are you supposed to use,
Mhm.
what works with you, what speaks to you, how can you be creative with it, how do you do it differently, and now we can search, there's so many examples, take what you see and change it up.
It's good. Yeah, that's really good because you know the notion of having sort of that artistic sensibility when you're utilizing that tool. It's just like I teach a class and I try to talk with my students about that, of like don't fall for everything you see out there. Add your own sort of layer to it. It's like learn the stuff and be informed and be influenced, but don't just do literally the same thing that other people are doing, because that uniqueness, that specialness, that goes away. And I think it's like apply sort of an artistic sensibility to using that tool and recognize it is a tool.
Yeah.
And it opens you up to the world too.
We did a panel in LA I guess a couple of years ago now, and No- 92 Jelani was one of the artists. He's an artist based in LA. He's modular, does modular synthesis. And I asked the group, like, who's an electronic artist that's, inspired you? And he answered so quickly. He said Jimi Hendrix.
Mm.
And I don't think people usually associate Jimi Hendrix with electronic music, but you think about the tool he used, which was that, I mean, he revolutionized the way people used distortion. And that is a form of technology. So I think that's a perfect example. Also with Black music, of the creativity with Black artists of taking something already there and making magic out of it.
Yeah, and you mentioned the thing. It's almost, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. All of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's like the thing you were saying earlier. It's like I just put my mic into the mixer. When I'm doing that, I try to keep it in, and especially because I'm doing this teaching thing now. I'm like, this is how I go about it, and this is how like I make it happen. And it might be just me putting it in there. I don't need the most polished. It's kind of being fine with the imperfect stuff, or even in the editing and cleaning up process. It's not the most fine tooth polish edit intentionally, because I think something is lost from the actual conversations. Conversations
Mm-hmm.
are perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There are some ums in there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to take those sneezes out and those snorts, because everyone is, it's still COVID's still a thing.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so let me move into these rapid fire
Okay.
questions.
Here we
I
go.
got three of them. And as I tell everyone, don't overthink these. Just, they're fine. Just all right. Who is one of your favorite people to discuss art with?
I mean, I haven't talked with him often, but DeForest Brown Jr. I'm gonna go back to DeForest Brown Jr. It was very intriguing hearing him talk about art, and he makes music as well. But it's like so informed. I mean, he's much more well read than I am. And so it's just love hearing how he uh, talks about music, how he talks about the concepts behind music. Um, this is off the top of my head. Yeah.
No, that's a great answer. Some people are
Okay.
like, I don't talk to anybody about art. I just know I'm making good stuff. It's like, all right, that's cool. You get it. You're the greatest thing ever. um, this is a lighter one. What is your current phone background?
It is like, I'm pretty sure it's legit.
It used to be, what's your last Google search? And people are like, yeah, I can't share that, bro. It's incriminating.
No, I'm not gonna. I don't want to. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's really like just the like standard. It's like one of the standard backdrops. Honestly, I was like changing photos, and I just got tired. I don't know. I just got tired. I was just like, I don't. I don't know if I really. I just want to turn on my phone and get to what I'm doing. So
Really?
one less distraction.
So this is the last one. I was wavering on this one, but I definitely want to hear it from you. However you deem it, how do you what is your rule for success? Like, some people will say the fact that I'm able to create. Some people will say that the fact that I'm able to make a living off of creating. Me, it's just I'm happy that I'm able to have the conversations.
Mm.
What is that role for you? What does success look like for you?
For me personally, or just like in general
For you as an
for me
individual.
personally.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, success is a contentment. Like, it's not about, you know, the money. It's not about us having a certain kind of house. It's not about, I mean, to me, it's like, am I living a life where I wake up and I'm excited to do more, to keep going, and not that it's easy,
Yeah.
but that like I can go to sleep at night and feel like, I mean, honestly, I like to live so that like if I died at this moment, for example, that like I think I did pretty good. I think things are okay. I think I left something behind, some good stuff, and hopefully people remember me for a little while. To me, that's success. It's like we're given the life an opportunity to do something. We don't have to all do great things. Sometimes it's like very little things that make an impact. And then like hopefully you live your life and it's not perfect, but hopefully you do something and then you pass it on to the next one. And you just got to keep it going. It's not so success individually, but also, I think about, I hope what I do has a life on its own as well. That's success to me too.
That's a great answer. And on that note, we can close out.
Okay.
So there's one thing I want to do. Well, two things I want to do. One, I want to thank you for being on here, making the time. This has been a great experience. See, I'm playing that game. And two, I want to invite and encourage you to share with the listeners website, social media, all of that good stuff. And I know we're weird with social media, but website, social media, all of that good stuff, so they can stay on track. And all of the happenings, Black Techno Matters, you, Output Message, Bernard Farley, all of the things. Share
Okay. Here we go. Okay, blacktechnomatters.org. Check that out. Black Techno Matters on Instagram. Check that out. If you want to follow me, Bernard, it's spelled all weird. B_X_R_N_X_R_D. Follow it. Got music on Bandcamp. Got music on Spotify. OutputMessage. I have a whole 20-year career of OutputMessage tracks. Go ahead and have fun with that. Also, Smoking Tea. I make ambient music. Check that out. And Future Drum Circle. There's still more in the pipeline for that. Also on Instagram, Future Drum Circle. So I think that's most of it.
And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Bernard Farley, Output Message, from Black Techno Matters, for coming on and speaking with us today. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.